Hi there, I'm Alicia Lynn Diaz, transformational healer and creator of the Enlightened Body System. Today, I have the third and final interview with the legendary Dr. John Douillard. Dr. Douillard is the author of the controversial book Eat Wheat and is a renowned Ayurvedic practitioner. In this interview, Dr. Douillard will talk about the emotional connection to digestion. He'll dive into the lymphatic system and give you strategies for overcoming stress. But before that, remember to register for your free gut reset training, link in the description below, where I'll give you the step-by-step how-tos that you can get started on right away. Without further ado, here's part 3 of my interview with Dr. John Douillard.
If you sit down and eat your food and you're angry, that was super bad for you. They knew that the energy and the attitude and the emotion that the person had who grew the food and picked the food and carried it to the market and cooked the food and handled your food had to be just right, had to be sattvic. And if it wasn't, the food was bad. And they had the sensitivity to feel that. I don't even get it. And so now we have science that shows that actually when you yell and scream, the microbes on that food are altered. We know that when you handle the food, whoever touched that food, you're ingesting the emotions of that person, everything that they think, said, and touched for the probably previous 18 hours along the way. So there's all this information of who grew the food, who cut the food, who harvested it, who carried it to the market, who cooked it, who prepared it. And you eating it all impregnates an emotional charge into that food. Now, Ayurveda said that is a 30-day digestive process. It takes 30 days to complete the process digesting. When you put it in your mouth, 30 days later, it's finally completely digested. We say in the West, how long it takes for the beets to turn the toilet red? That's how long it takes to digest stuff. Ayurveda said, well, it's a little more complicated than that. It's actually a process of the emotional charge of that food is carried into your intestinal tract, and those emotions change and alter your microbiology, which we now know without any doubt affect every physiological, mental, emotional, cognitive function in your body. So how you eat becomes maybe one of the most important things that we can do. So the first takeaway thing is challenge yourself to sit down and relax and take time to enjoy and eat your food. I just wrote an article about I went on Eric Weinmeier, who's a blind hiker. He climbed Mount Everest blind, and he hosted this blind dinner. My wife and I went to this blind dinner. You go in, you get escorted. It's black. The whole place is black. You eat in the dark. You hear a lecture in the dark. You live in the whole evening you're in the dark. And eating, first finding your glass and your fork and not spilling it was a miracle. But putting the food in your mouth blind was like, usually you are aware of what you're putting in your mouth. When this way, you don't even know what you're putting in your mouth. And the taste and the discovery of what's in your mouth, I was like, wow, that's what it's really like to have your senses alive. Instead of inhaling your food, And it makes a difference in terms of the microbiology. It sends messages from your mouth to your bugs, what's coming, get ready, steak or potatoes or meat or whatever, pasta, it's coming, get ready. It's a whole coordinated thing. It's unbelievably complex, and it's evolved over billions and billions of years. In a lot of ways, our body is this thing that keeps those bugs alive. They sort of evolved us to protect them. Sort of weird, but in a lot of ways, they're in charge. And they're very, very sensitive to emotion. We know, so one thing, sit down, relax, take time, eat your food. We also know that the body is primarily loving, giving, joyful, and kind. So here's what we know. You eat, you give, you love, you care, you be sattvic. You produce hormones like oxytocin versus dopamine. Dopamine is the reward, need to have it right now hormone. Oxytocin is a loving, giving, bonding hormone, which makes you live longer and optimizes health and longevity. We know that when you give love and care, your telomeres on your chromosomes that are linked to longevity lengthen. We know that when you give and love and care, your your microbes thrive in this kind-giving environment. You take the poop out of an anxious mouse, put it in a calm mouse, the calm mouse gets anxious. We know if you put someone next to a stressful person, their bugs in that healthy, happy, calm person become stressful. So these bugs entrain the energy and change just by being next to that person. We are overwhelmingly more sensitive than we ever knew possible. So when we think about the subtleties of Ayurveda, that the most subtle, sitting down, who grew the food, who cooked the food, it gets crazy in our culture, and we can even think like that. Yet, that was the level of awareness that we have as human beings if we tie ourselves back to the rhythms of nature, the cycles of nature, begin to eat in season and all these things. So the second thing is, one study showed that we have lost our ability to connect with the outside rhythms, the circadian rhythms in the environment, and our rhythms have been broken. Our cells can't hear the circadian light-dark cycles any longer. How do you retrain that? Well, we have a thing called the 3-Season Diet Challenge. We put out a monthly packet every month for free. It's grocery lists, recipes, superfoods about how to eat with every season. You get a free packet in your inbox every month. Here's what to eat. Here's recipes to get you in the month of March and April, May and June and July. You get it for free every month so you can start to eat with the seasons. Why? Because there's bugs in the soil that change with each season. And they're attached to certain plants in each season. And those plants become our food in each season. And that food becomes our new microbiome that decongest us in the spring and get rid of heat in the summer and build immunity in the winter and digest wheat and dairy in the winter. There's bugs that support better digestion of wheat in the winter that don't exist in the spring. And guess what? Wheat didn't exist in the spring, right? So step 2, stop, take time, eat your food, relax, and try to make an emphasis to eat more of the foods that are in season versus thinking, well, you shouldn't eat. Start thinking what you should eat more of. And let me help you with that by giving you a free grocery list, a free recipes, superfoods for every month of the year. It's very cool. It's wonderful. I'm so happy about that and that we do that, because I think people will start to get that connection back. Super important. Next are, we mentioned a little bit about eating processed foods. Look at the label on your bread. Bread that's really bread is wheat, salt, water, maybe a starter. It's soft the first day, sort of hard the second day. By the third day, you can knock somebody out with it. It's hard. It's not, and that's what bread should do. So if you're eating stuff that, and the bugs eat that, it goes bad. The bugs are gobbling up in the bread. There's microbes in there. And by the time they've eaten everything, the bread is a hard, crusty thing, and there's nothing left to it. Think about, if the bugs won't eat it, should you? Think about the stuff that's in your fridge and how long it's been there. Think about the stuff that sits in your cupboard that's been there forever. And somehow the bugs don't eat it. Well, since you're 90% microbe, shouldn't you be eating stuff that microbes like too, sort of? I mean, vegetables go bad. I mean, stuff usually goes bad. So that's something to kind of limit as much as you possibly can foods in your diet that don't go bad, and that's all these ketchups and things that are in your fridge that just aren't good. And it's so easy to get around that stuff. And then the other thing, maybe the biggest culprit of all, is what we did when they took the cholesterol out of our diet in 1980. Reagan replaced, and it was a good thing idea. He subsidized the growth of corn and wheat for pennies on the dollar to eradicate poverty in America. It's a beautiful idea, except that wheat and corn became super highly processed and fed the masses for 50 cents a loaf, and became super processed and undigestible. Ended up having a much higher glycemic index. And that's the case that David Perlmutter made with the grain. It's really the sugar that is from processed wheat that's causing the problem. It's not the wheat, it's the sugar. And you can get sugar anywhere, not just in wheat, that causes the grain brain. It's the sugar brain. It's the sugar belly, not the wheat belly. It's the sugar that's the real culprit that we're talking about here. And we replace our energy from fats to sugars. And slowly, this is really delicate, slowly reintroducing good fats back into your diet, getting the bad fats out of your diet, and getting the sugar out of your diet. And I should say that better. Step 1, get the sugar out of your diet. Step 2, get the bad fats out of your diet. Step 3, slowly reintroduce the good fats into your diet. Because if you just start eating a bunch of good fats, on top of a congested liver that can't digest fast in the first place. You got all this fat energy, all this sugar energy. You're going to overshoot the energy, run away and store all of it as fat and create real problems. So it's a delicate, reboot and a readjustment that needs to take place. So those are some good starter strategies.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a bunch of herbs that reboot digestive strength and heal the intestinal skin that are very important as well.
Yeah, awesome. Could you share with us some strategies on how to specifically counter the stress and the emotional aspect, like you were talking about, when we're angry or anxious, how that impacts our ability to remove waste and how that impacts the microbial cultures? So do you use meditation? Are there anything else that you want to share in that realm?
Well, there's no doubt that the science is just sort of beginning to come in, but what we do know for a fact is that there is a direct link between stress and the health and vitality and diversity of your microbiome. Mm-hmm. We know that when you do meditate, it creates longer telomeres. In one study, the telomeres inside your intestinal tract, telomeres that line your intestinal skin, those chromosomes we're talking about, they were increased in length, therefore longevity, by 30% in one study and 43% in another, just by meditating. So, one of the things that my favorite part of Ayurveda and Vedic science is in chapter 2 and verse 48 of the Bhagavad Gita. There's a Krishna who's like having to go fight his family in this big war, and he doesn't really want to do it, but he's sort of got to do it because they stole the kingdom and stuff. They did some bad stuff. And to save the generations of turmoil for the kingdom, he had to do this. And he said, I'm really nervous about this. So he was told that he had to first establish being and then perform action. And establish being means become still and become silent and then act. Well, that's our nature. Evolutionarily, we lived in the woods, in the wilderness. It was silent, it was still. We merged with nature. We migrated with nature. We were connected to these rhythms. That's who we are. We had that silence. Now we have to meditate. And meditation is great, and a great way to create even higher levels of consciousness. Now we need it as a stress reduction technique just to kind of deal. But, reestablishing the composure and the calm and the silence by meditating, by going into the woods and being still or hiking and, reconnecting ourselves with these rhythms, eating with the seasons another way. All these ways are so important. But meditation is perhaps one of the most powerful ways to reconnect yourself with those natural circadian rhythms. And since we now know that we process all of our stress through the intestinal skin, meditation is such a powerful tool to heal and repair your intestinal skin. We have a free meditation called the 1 minute meditation. So for folks who are too busy to meditate, we have one called the 1 minute meditation, which is like super easy. It takes 1 minute, and you can do it 1 to 5 to 10 times a day, and really learn how to meditate. And do it throughout the day, and just keep dipping the dye in the cloth of your own silence and reset, heal, repair. We also have a whole meditation course called the Transformational Awareness Technique, which is a course about how to not only meditate, because remember the saying was establish being and then perform action. And as you know, we talk a lot about establishing being calm in yoga, breathing, meditate, but we don't really talk about the action part. And the action part is the most important thing. When you meditate, you become more aware of what this crazy mind created, old patterns of behavior that we might have established as a young kid to navigate our crazy parents. And we created personality traits that served us well then, but maybe not serving us so well as an adult. And we go home for the holidays and we act like a 4-year-old again. We have these old emotional childlike things in us that are manifesting. They're called molecules of emotion. In Ayurveda, we call it mental ama. Well, they need to be broken to free yourself from living a life unconsciously. 95% of the things we do, say, and speak in our adult life are from the first 6 years of life, impressions made then. And they are called unconscious because they're not coming from conscious thoughts. They're coming from first 6 years of life. They become unconscious reactions to our environment. And Ayurveda says that's not good enough. You need to establish being, your truth, and act on it. And that's what Ayurveda is about. Ayurveda means Ayur life. Veda is truth. So it's the truth of your life. And the whole point of Ayurveda is to figure out a way to get still, get silent, get balanced, get healthy, You have better awareness to see what this crazy mind did and then take action to free yourself. And since we know that your body is loving, joyful, and kind, your microbes, epigenetically, your genetics change when you love and give and care. So much science proving that we are naturally loving. And when you say take action, it has to be action based on your truth, on your loving, kind nature, not a reward chemistry if I'm going to act and make a lot of money and get a new car, or I'm going to give with no expectation to get anything in return because it's my nature to give. It's my nature to love. And an old saying in Ayurveda, if you eat standing up, death looks over your shoulder. If you eat, better not to eat than eat angry. Because they knew that when your emotions are the most profound, and we don't want to emotionally charge our food, which is going to find its way into the most subtle aspects of our fabric of our being 30 days later, carrying these angry emotional charges. So eating was such a sacred event that carried this calm, sattvic, loving, joyful, and keep refreshing the memory that that's who we truly are. Yes, we have the ability to fight. We have the ability to rebel. We have the ability to survive under attack. We have that ability, but that's not who we are. That's not what defines us. That's what kept the species alive through tough times, but it is not who we are. What evolves us is when the cells are safe to expand and open and evolve and multiply into higher states of cognitive function. And that is not just me talking. That's hard science, which is pretty crazy that I can say that there's studies now that say intuitive decision-making as the title of a scientifically, published study. Pretty cool stuff.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Last question, Dr. Douillard. Just what words of encouragement do you have for our viewers if they are perhaps kind of just hitting dead ends or feeling really disempowered on their healing journey, and they just really, what words of encouragement would you give just to instill more hope?
Well, there's an old saying that says, to the extent that something affects you is to the extent that it's your karma. Karma defined is action. So to the extent that something or someone affects you in a negative way is to the extent that it's your opportunity to take a transformational action step. So you can look at all this diversity and problem, and you can then react to that, and then you're doing that. Or you can realize that my nature is truly loving, kind, and maybe I'm very sensitive and delicate, but how can I start to take action based on my truth as opposed to living in a body reacting to all the craziness that's out there? That'll make us all sick. If we continue to react to that, yeah, we're going to get sick. But if we start to take baby steps towards acting from our truth and laying down some pavement like, hey, Mom, hope you're having a great day. Just want to call to tell you I love you. Just little things, no reward, nothing in return. I don't need to say anything. I love you, honey, but it's no concern of yours. That's the key, is to just start laying down some neural pavement in your brain that feels safe enough for you to take a risk, open the very delicate petals of your flower, and a little dose of your truth out. And that's how we do it. It's all an opportunity.
It's all an opportunity. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Douillard, so much for being a part of the Soul Healing Summit. To all of you listening, I want to encourage each and every one of you to visit Dr. John Douillard's website at lifespa.com, where you can learn more about his programs, his offerings, and his vast library of health information. Specifically, you can also visit lifespa.com/TAT, which stands for Transformational Awareness Technique, where you can learn more about his meditation technique that he shared with us today. So that's lifespa.com/TAT. So thank you everyone again for joining us. This has been Dr. John Douillard and Alicia Lynn Diaz with the Soul Healing Summit. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. John Douillard, for your wealth of knowledge that you've shared with us. Thank you for watching and for being here with me. Remember to register for your Gut Reset training, link in the descriptions below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much.